So, my name is Monty J. Sorry for clearing my throat. I am the director, writer, producer, and the actor who you see in this short film called Check In. Happy to be here. Indeed, I'm happy to be here. Now you might hear some things in the background, man. I will not lie and say that I'm not sipping a little bit. I'm celebrating a little bit. The victory, which is creating this short film, and it's been a journey. So for the next 30 or so minutes, I'm just gonna kind of peel back the layers and give you guys a little peek into the creative process of how this short film came about. It wasn't an accident, but at the same time, it wasn't planned by any means. It was not planned at all. I I'll go back to December of 2021. I had something on my mind. Just I'm a news junkie, big CNN guy, so to speak. I watch my morning news every morning. When I was a kid, I used to read the newspaper. The earliest that I remember reading a newspaper was age 4. My 96-year-old grandmother. My 96-year-old grandmother's name is Pearl, and Pearl would vouch for that her first grandchild could read at age 4. And so my older relatives would always make sure that I had a newspaper. And that was my grandmother, obviously my parents. I could even say my mom's oldest sister, Jan Davis, her husband, my uncle Donald Davis. We would go to see my cousin Clint play basketball at Bellarmine University, which is in Kentucky. And before he would get on the highway, he would stop at the gas station and gas up, and then he would make sure that his nephew Monty had his newspaper. And I think he got a kick out of it, I think he got a kick out of, like this little old man, this guy's like 11 years old, maybe 12 years old, But I mean, it started way earlier than that. But anyway, so I say that to say that, I am a news junkie. And so in December of 2021, I saw a couple stories that were pertaining to mental health issues. Obviously, we were quote unquote coming out of a pandemic. We're still not out of it, but we were coming out of a pandemic, and so I saw a couple stories that really hit home, and I have to be honest, it was about black men and the stigma of talking about mental health, discussing mental health issues, depression, anxiety, even black men, and suicide. And it's something that I've been very cognizant of. I always try to stay in tune to what's going on. And so initially, when I started writing this film, I wrote the seventh day, which you will see right now. What you're viewing is the first day, and I was like, okay, I want to write something about a guy who seems to have it all together, like he has his life together, but that's only on the surface. So when you see this guy daily, you might work with this guy, and this guy comes in with a smile on his face every damn day. You know, you might go kick it with this guy after work, and this guy is the life of the party, and you're like, yo, he's so cool. Man, that guy, that guy's married. That guy has, children. He takes care of his business, etc., etc. This guy is really, he's on top of it. I mean, he's a lot of fun. But secretly, this guy has some demons, really, really dark issues that no one knows about. Not even, his wife or his children. And so I wrote the end of the film first. And it was the first time, I've written screenplays before, several times. And this was the first time where I started at the end. And really, quite honestly, when I wrote the seventh day story, as you will see, I had no intention of this being a short film. I just wrote it, like, damn, this is almost like a skit, like possibly a audition piece for me as an actor. But I sat on it. I wrote it December of 2021, right before Christmas, and I sat on that. And then I would say around, I want to say February of 2021, actually probably around March of 2022, rather, I'm sorry. So this past year just passed. I started kind of jotting notes in regards to this guy that I wrote about, and what can I flesh out? And so that process took place between, I would say, March of 2022 and May. Maybe I may have started in February, but nevertheless, I started writing more, and I was like, yo, we might have a screenplay here. So, it would be a short film, obviously. I kind of envisioned this as being a film short, and maybe this could address, that stigma in the black community, particularly, like I said, with black men, that we don't speak about. We, real shit, brothers. We see each other all the time. We don't actually, we check in. Hey, bro, how you doing? How you been, man? Oh, man, I've been good, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We might see each other out somewhere, but are you really, truly checking on each other? Because that shit is cool on the surface, but, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be blunt with this commentary. A motherfucker drive home and have the weight of the world on his shoulders. And that's not just black men. Don't get it twisted. I am a black man, so I'm referring to black men. I don't want to, ostracize other cultures, other races. That it's not that. This is universal. Whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Southeast Asian, Middle Eastern, Greek, whatever. It doesn't matter. We all are human. And so all of us deal with weighted issues that sometimes we compress and we suppress and we keep it inside. We bottle it up. And, I know for black men particularly, the whole thing of going to therapy is kind of taboo. I think it's kind of loosened up in the last few years, but ultimately, if you talk to the average brother on the streets, you know, if a brother is going to therapy, he may not admit it to you, regardless of how close you are with him. I can honestly tell you that I am a black man who has been in therapy for, this is January 4th, 2023. I've been in therapy for a few months, dealing with some things that I felt were necessary to address. And there's no shame in that. I don't hide that from my mom or my dad or, my son or my daughter or my wife. I don't hide that from anyone. That's my journey. That's my life story. And I can honestly tell you that I feel a hell of a lot better going through therapy. And now I've gotten into meditation. And meditation, obviously prayer, and scripture, but it's not just scripture from the Bible, man. I read the Quran, I delve into Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism. Because my thing is the common denominator is the Creator. And I'm not big on religion. I'm very big on spirituality. Meditation has been great. I have to say, like my wife tried to get me into meditation for years, and I kind of balked at it. I didn't dismiss it. I just didn't hone in on it. And, then 2022 happened. And there was a lot of things that happened in 2022, from my cancer scare and having a bone marrow biopsy done and, finding out I did not have cancer, thankfully. And then, 2 months later, having a really bad car accident where I was rear-ended and suffered a back injury and, dealing with that stress, and then having COVID, and then some other things that have gone on. And it was just like, I needed something. And there's a guy that I'm friends with named Dwayne Lloyd. Dwayne introduced me to chakras. And I had heard about chakras before. As you can hear a plane flying in the background, probably. But I had heard about chakras before. I didn't really know much about it. I was kind of ignorant to it. And he introduced me to Hertz, listening to Hertz and how they can affect your chakras, And so I started doing that. And it started giving me peace of mind. And I was like, I need to explore this meditation shit a little bit, a little bit more, a little bit further. And so I have gotten into meditation, and I'm telling you, I am an Aries, which is a fire sign. And, I kind of inherited a little bit of my mom and a little bit of my dad. My mom, I got to be honest with you. She may see this or hear this, and she may not like that I say this, but my mom is good with holding grudges. So my mom will hold a grudge for 1,000 years, man. You know, she's a beautiful woman. I love my mother. She's a sweetheart, but do not fucking get on her bad side because it's not good for you. That's part of me. My dad is a 72-year-old man living in Phoenix, Arizona. My father has been a minister since 2004. My father has not always been a minister. Once upon a time, my father, there's a song called, and it goes, Papa was a rolling stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. Now, I'm not indicting my father on that shit right there, but my dad was just one of them dudes. He wasn't to be fucked with, and so I kind of inherited my dad's temperament as well. Quick to react. Think about the consequences later, and that has not always served me well. But I do. I mean, I have both of my parents' DNA in me. But meditation has allowed me at age 50, I turned 50 April 19th, 2022. I almost said 1972, but 2022, I turned 50 years old, and it mellowed me. I mean, it really mellowed me out, the meditation that I began in September of 2022. And it doesn't mean that I'm perfect. It doesn't mean that I don't still have work to do. It just means that I like my progress. I like who I am. And I have not always loved who I was. I mean, I've liked me, but I have not always loved who I am. And so I'm on the path to loving myself and putting myself first. Now, mind you, I have a son and a daughter who are seniors in high school right now. And that's kind of my focus right now. But, my children are going to be in college in August. And that makes me an empty nester. Now, what do you do? Well, number one, go make films. I mean, right now, I'm not in a place where all I can do is make films. I have to work. But be creative. Fucking travel. Travel the world. And you don't have to travel the world with other people. Travel by your damn self. So I know none of this shit that I'm talking to you about right now has anything to do with this film. But it does. In essence, it does. I'll get back to the basis of this film. Check in. My thing about all of this is to say that I have been on this journey, and it kind of mirrors my character in this film, Miles Cantor, and how it mirrors Miles. So Miles Cantor is a businessman, and he's not rich by any means. The guy he's got great ideas. He's got a hell of a fucking business sense, and he is on the path to trying to prosper, live the American dream, which most of us try to live the American dream. And so Miles is under a lot of stress when he goes to this hotel room. So as you can see in this story, he has checked into a hotel room. He's told his wife his son and his two daughters that, hey, dad needs a sabbatical, and dad time. He needs dad time. And I'm gonna go check into a hotel and I'm gonna eat a grape while I'm talking to you about this. But I'm gonna go check into a hotel. I just need some time. No one's done anything wrong. Wife hasn't done anything wrong. Children haven't done anything wrong. Miles just needs to get his thoughts together because Miles is under a lot of stress. And so, Miles checks into this hotel. And he decides, I'm going to document my journey. I think this would be very therapeutic. This will be something great to look back on. What no one knows is that Miles has a lot of demons when he checks into this hotel. Miles is dealing with a lot of shit that he has not disclosed to his wife. Obviously, he has not disclosed to his kids. And part of it is health issues. So Miles has health issues. And when this film begins, Miles has checked in. He has gone to the doctor. This is something that's not documented in the film, but it's kind of an unspoken thing. Well, why does Miles do what he does? Well, he's waiting on results for tests on his health, and it would affect his mortality. And so, in the meantime, Miles also has a business proposition on the table with a company. And so you kind of have opposite ends of a spectrum. Like, on one end, this guy has a business proposition on the table that could change the whole trajectory of his family's well-being. But on the other side of that spectrum, he's got a dire health situation that could inevitably determine the fate of his whole existence. And so he checks into this hotel to try to make sense of everything. On one hand, it's almost the scales of justice. One hand's up, one hand's down, and the hand that's up is the prosperity part. The hand that's down is the stark reality of my life might be in danger. And if this doesn't go the way I hope it goes, there's nothing I can do about it. And we all face that in this life. One of my mantras is that just as sure as you took your first breath when you were born, that very first breath, you come out of the womb, bam, you take that first breath, you hit that cry, and everybody is celebrating. You're crying. So now think about that. Think about the fact that the baby cries and the grown-ups celebrate. But when you die, you don't cry, but everybody else does. That's interesting to me. It's always been interesting to me. And so at the moment you take your first breath, the inevitability of death is cemented. Now, mind you, that could be a very morbid way of thinking about life. Like, you took your first breath and you've signed your death certificate. I mean, what the fuck? Nobody wants to go through life thinking like that. But at the same time, that is reality. You can't come here and stay forever. And so, this is what Miles is wrestling with. And so, you see the very first day, Miles is kind of upbeat and he's, euphoric about okay, I'm taking this break. My wife and my children, they're good with it. I'm gonna take this break and I'm gonna sort my thoughts out. But then you see the roller coaster over the course of the 7 days, where this guy is up 1 minute, he's down, then he's up, he's down. There's a couple days where he's like, and basically this serves as like a documentary of his last 7 days in this world. He, a couple of the days he cuts off. Like, I can't fucking do this. It's a little bit too much. And so he, just like any other human being, he tries to process things. And maybe he doesn't always process it the way we would hope he would or the way we think he should. But nevertheless, he processes it as best that he can. It was funny because when I wrote this screenplay and it got halfway through the screenplay and I was like, this shit is way too fucking lengthy, dude. Like, this is not action. There is no action in this film whatsoever. It's just a character study. It's just a man who is attempting to embrace solitude. And it's in hopes that I kind of think of it like this from Miles' standpoint. If I can make it out of these 7 days without bad news, then people can look at this and say, damn, that's a hell of a thing. The dude documented this shit. As you will see, it doesn't go Miles's way. And there are so many people in the world where it doesn't go their way, where they are hopeful. I'm hopeful that I can make it out of this, maybe by myself or with the help of others. And I'm struggling. And, sometimes people just need just one person to say, hey, you know what? I got you. I understand what you're going through because I've gone through it too. I've gone through this bullshit. And there is light on the other side of this darkness. There are others who may even reach out to people, and those people hear them, but they ain't really listening. Or maybe they're listening, but they're not really hearing them. And so they walk alone. And then something bad happens. They do something to themselves. And then everybody is left wondering, where the fuck did this go wrong? What happened? Why didn't I see the signs? And so Miles is trying to sort through everything. No marriage is perfect. So he's trying to sort through that, but that's not the source of his problems. The source of Miles's problems is self-doubt. Sorry, you hear me chewing a grape. Let me just chew it up. He's sorting through self-doubt. He's sorting through anxiety. He's sorting through depression. A lot of people are like, well, why are you anxious? You have anxiety. Why the fuck are you anxious? And let me just be honest with you. As a person who suffers from anxiety, damn, it's not always a reason. And it took my wife, Trina, teaching me that. Because as I started to develop anxiety, my wife had anxiety as well. And she was like, yo, it's not always a reason. Sometimes the shit just hits you. And there's no rhyme or reason. There's no script for that. It just happens. And you have to deal with it. For myself, my heart races. My heart races and I'm antsy. I can't lay down. Hell, sometimes I feel like when it's really bad, when I have really bad anxiety, I feel like I want to literally fucking jump out of my skin. I mean, like, I want my soul to jump out of my fucking skin and I want to run. That's a really bad episode of anxiety. I've had those. Now, I don't have that all the time, but sometimes that happens. And the crazy thing, or not the crazy, I don't want to say crazy. I don't want to use the word crazy here. The really fucked up thing, that's not even a better word, but I'm going to say it anyway. The fucked up thing about it is that if you tell people that, some people experience anxiety, but they don't experience it to your level. And they dismiss it as, man, you're tripping. Dude, relax. Take a vacation, whatever. Don't dismiss a person like that, man. You have no idea what that person may be going through. And then you have those people who are depressed. Have I suffered depression? Hell yes, I've suffered depression. I have suffered depression on a number of occasions. And I can honestly say when I can go back and pinpoint times where I was depressed and didn't even know I was depressed because I was young. And now there are times where I'm older and I'm like, yo, this is depression. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to talk to people. You want to keep your distance from everybody. I mean, yeah, I get the pandemic. A lot of us were day drinking. A lot of us were day drinking during the pandemic. We can't go nowhere. You go to the store, you got to put a mask on. But once you got past that, depression sometimes will show up like, you know what? I wake up and, I've taken my shower. I mean, I've brushed my teeth, taken my shower. I've shaved my head. I've gotten dressed and I don't want to fucking go anywhere. I don't want to see anyone. You know what? Damn, it's the Fox 59 news has gone off at 10 a.m. But you know what? I've had my breakfast. I've had my coffee and hell, I want to drink. And so you start day drinking. That's a clear sign of depression, man. So here we are. As you're looking at this commentary, we're in the 7th day. So Miles has basically processed all of his emotions over the previous 6 days. And so Miles was going to turn 50 on the 8th day. As you will see, or as you have probably already seen, Miles does not make it to the 8th day. So here's Miles. Miles has he has a shirt and tie on, and so I'm sure some people will ask, well, okay, the other days he was casual, everyday shit that he was wearing. Why the shirt and tie on the last day? Well, the shirt and tie on the last day represents, this is Miles' last day in this hotel that he's checked into. And Miles has received really bad news about his health. And it's dire. Miles is not going to survive. He's going to see 50. No doubt. He's going to see 50 years old. But Miles has a health situation, which I do not disclose. I purposely don't disclose it in the film because to me, I think that would have cheapened. I think it would have cheapened the rawness of this film. Um, for me to tell you Miles has cancer, or Miles has this, or Miles has that, and it's irreversible, and you've got a month to live. That cheapens it. I mean, it's just to me that's too easy. That would have been the easy way to explain this film. I didn't want it to be that. I wanted it to be a thing where it was left up in the air. What the fuck was it for this guy who spoke about his wife and spoke about his son and his two daughters? What the hell was it that made him make this choice? And so I have to go to the fact that I do recognize Stephen Twitch Boss, who was the DJ for Ellen DeGeneres, because I know for a fact that Twitch went to a hotel and he committed suicide. And so I say that to say that there's a lot of irony in that, because I started writing this in December of 2021, and then this guy does this, and it's like, okay, there are a lot of similarities there. I don't know his whole story, but I did not reveal what Miles' condition was or why Miles makes the choice that he makes to end his life, as you will see here shortly. But I did leave it open-ended for you to determine, well, what the hell was wrong with him? What happened with him that made him make that choice? Especially when he spoke so glowingly about his wife and his children. And that's just it, folks. A lot of times people have the best of, I've got the greatest spouse in the world. I've got the greatest children in the world. I've got this career, in this guy's case, I just closed a $6 million deal. The biggest deal that I've ever closed. And my life is looking up, but do you know what the fuck is going on inside me? Do you? Have you asked? Do you check on your loved ones? Hence, the double entendre of the film's title is check in, which he checked into a hotel, but it's also check in on your relatives and your loved ones and your friends. Check in on them, because you don't ever know what someone's going through. And the hard part of playing this character, because initially, once I finished the screenplay, I was like, I don't want to do this shit. I really don't want to do this. But the hard part about playing it was that there are some similarities with Miles and myself. And that's scary. But not to Miles' extreme. Miles had demons that no one knew about. Monty has demons that he addresses head on. And the difference between Miles and Monty is that for myself, in reality, when I have problems, I speak to someone, whether it be a therapist, my wife, my mother, my father, my children. Even sometimes I'll speak to my children. Miles chose not to speak to anyone. And that's my point in making this film. If you are going through something, if you are having mental health issues, you're having a crisis, you are suffering anxiety to the extreme or depression, you're not alone. People are not going to judge you. And for the motherfuckers that judge you, leave them alone. Push them to the left or the right. There are people out here. They might be total strangers, but there are people out here who will be there for you. I'm Monty J. My short film is called Check In. And I hope and pray that this film does a service to someone and helps someone overcome their struggle. God bless you, and I love you. And peace. Please remember to check in on the people that you love.